Coming into the season, Syracuse football's three-game slate against Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State was given many descriptions. Daunting, a gauntlet, murderer's row. The Orange didn't find success against the Tigers nor the Tar Heels, and today, down at Doak Campbell Stadium, a 41-3 beatdown at the hands of the fourth-ranked Seminoles. We'll have instant reactions, highlights, analysis, and a whole lot more on Orange Press Pass, and it starts right now. Hello and welcome inside the CitrusTV studio alongside Sam Reis and AJ Myers. I'm Liam Griffin. Syracuse falls to number 4, Florida State 41-3. Sam, I'll start with you. Give me your first thought from this game.
My first thought right off the bat, Liam, is that a slow start from the Syracuse team once again set the tone for how this entire game played out, just as was the case last week, I should say, against North Carolina. You know it's a big game against Florida State, and they go out and punt on the first 3 drives of the game. Sure, it was a two-possession game, AJ, heading into the halftime break, but you never got the sense that Syracuse was even in this game.
Yeah, Sam, SU's defense did a great job. They only held Florida State to 17 points in the first half, but the other side of the ball didn't do anything, and that's my big takeaway. This was a two-side-of-the-ball game. The defense was excellent, but every time the defense would get a big stop, the offense failed to deliver. It would either be a punt or a 3-and-out.
Multiple instances in this game, AJ, where defense got to stop, but the offense couldn't quite punch back. Let's see a few instances of that. Let's take a look at how this game went down. Syracuse and Florida State going to battle in Tallahassee, and overall, going into the game, look at Robert Griffin III in that Seminole student section, getting them amped up. Right from the jump, a few minutes in, FSU's first offensive possession. Look at this catch from Keon Coleman. He looks like Odell Beckham Jr. with the 27-yard grab, and that led to this. A simple 2-yard run up the middle for Jordan Travis puts the Seminoles on the board first. FSU also got a field goal to make it 10-0. How about this play? A little bit of trickeration from the Orange offense. Garrett Trader's second reception of the season. Not the first time we've seen that. SU got a field goal on that drive to make it 10-3. But it ended up being a moot point just a few minutes later because of this 58-yard touchdown grab from Keon Coleman, 140 receiving yards on the day. Then on the very next offensive play for SU, AJ, some terrible offensive line play.
Yes, but Liam, Garrett Trader's got to know better. You got to tuck that ball away.
FSU went into the locker room up 17-3. Early third quarter, Jordan Travis, second rushing touchdown of the day, doubles his season total to 4 to make it a 24-3 ball game. Then on the next possession, Brady Denberg, oh boy, an ugly field goal attempt. He's down to 7 for 10 on the year. Another special teams debacle here, Sam, on this Keon Coleman punt return.
That's right. Syracuse simply didn't have an answer for Coleman all day long. Whether that was in the passing game or right here on this monster punt return on special teams, they couldn't take him down, Liam.
This punt return went for 72 yards. Keon Coleman had over 100 punt return yards on the game. FSU got a field goal on this drive to make it 27-3. Into the fourth quarter now. Lawrence Toafili, oh man, 50 yards down the sideline, accounted for half of his yardage in the game on the ground to make it 34-3 FSU. Then this was just insult to injury. Jordan Travis out at QB, Tate Roadmaker in, doesn't matter. Hakeem Williams, his only reception of the day, goes the distance, 44 yards to make it 41-3. A laugher in Tallahassee. And Sam, when you look at the box score, not a whole lot to like.
Very, very ugly. Just 99 yards in the passing game for Schrader before Del Rio Wilson ultimately came in. And then on the other side, Florida State just put on a show offensively. 9 punts today from Jack Stonehouse, AJ. That's not good.
Yeah, Syracuse couldn't gain any momentum to start this game, and once the second half rolled around, it was really irrelevant because we all knew what the scoreline would be.
Right.
Ended up being irrelevant. It was over quickly, just 17-3 at halftime, but Florida State outscored Syracuse by 24 points coming out of the locker room. We now go live to Tallahassee. We bring in Ben Spector, our reporter, who was at Doak Campbell Stadium throughout the game. And Ben, I hope you've enjoyed the warm weather down there. FSU's offense put up 40 points against an ACC foe for the first time this season. What stood out to you from that unit today?
What stood out for me, Liam, was the fact that Florida State was on fire. Jordan Travis, the quarterback, he leads the #1 scoring offense entering today. in the ACC. He really showed out, had just over 275 passing yards. Dino Babers talked about him a lot after the game. He said he rolled out to his left well, rolled out to his right. He made plays when plays weren't there, but his connection with Keon Coleman stood out the most to me because Johnny Wilson was out this game. He was the most targeted receiver for Florida State entering this contest, so somebody had to step up. Keon Coleman, he should be a first-round pick in the NFL draft this upcoming April. He made a leaping 27-yard grab in the first quarter. Then he made a double move on Isaiah Johnson in the second frame, scored a touchdown, was all alone. His leaping ability, his athletic ability was put on display, as well as his chemistry with Jordan Travis. This Florida State offense put on a show in front of a sold-out crowd here at Doak Campbell Stadium.
Ben, it's so great to see you. Hope you're enjoying your time there in Tallahassee. I wanted to know, what do you feel the vibe in the locker room is heading into this final stretch of the season, because this tough slate of ranked opponents is now behind the Orange?
Yeah, Sam, this is a team that is very confident going down the final stretch of the year. They know that this three-game stretch, Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State, was the toughest for the entirety of 2023. Syracuse is confident with the opponents it has upcoming. They're very willing and accepting of this bye week that they have. They want it to heal, recover, get back in that mindset. LaQuinn Allen talked about the efficiency that this offense has to reach, and he thinks that it will reach it as it goes up against Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Boston College towards the end of the season, towards the final stretch of this regular season. But ultimately, Dino Babers also talked about how this is NFL talent that SU went up against in Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State. The talent will be lessened against these other ACC opponents, and that's why Syracuse is confident that it could pick up wins down the stretch.
Ben, Schrader went 9 for 21 through the air today, only 99 yards. What went wrong for QB1?
Yeah, Schrader had a really rough day, and he had a rough day against Clemson and North Carolina. But today's tough day in the office was a little bit different. Last night, after the team dinner, Garrett Schrader suffered from food poisoning, Dino Babers told us after this contest, and it ultimately hindered him. He was dehydrated. He wasn't in the right mindset. Dino Babers said, quote, "It was coming out from all sides," and he moved his arms out wide. He outstretched them and said it wasn't looking good for Garrett Schrader. That's why Schrader was pulled out earlier in the fourth quarter. It wasn't a performance issue. It was because he suffered from food poisoning, and he was feeling the effects of it throughout today's contest.
Well, as someone who has suffered with food poisoning myself, I can't imagine playing a Division I football game after that. That's Ben Spector from Tallahassee. Ben, thanks for joining us. Safe travels back home. We're up against our first break, but when we come back, we'll dissect Syracuse's 41-3 loss to number 4 Florida State. Don't go anywhere. OPP will be RB.
Welcome to an excellent episode of Live from Studio B.
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Sam Reis, AJ Myers, Liam Griffin here with you today. Syracuse is demolished by fourth-ranked Florida State 41-3. And guys, when you look at this game, a lot of missed opportunities for the Orange offense. The Mob got 2 fourth down stops, including one inside the 5-yard line, but Sam, Jason Meck's unit did not capitalize.
Not at all, and that was the frustrating thing, particularly in this first half when it was still a 2-score game. The game, in theory, still in reach, AJ. Those 2 fourth down stops from the defense were massive. What does the offense do after that? A 3-and-out, and then after the next fourth down stop, another punt. That was the story all day long.
Sam, I'm going to go back to even earlier in this game. FSU's first drive of the game, to be exact. They fumbled the football. Jordan Travis fumbled it. He recovered it. Later in that same drive, in the red zone, another fumble. And this one, SU should have really recovered. It was 3 or 4 guys for the Orange that were near the ball. No one could get on top of it. Florida State ended up scoring, and that was where you build momentum. If you want to beat the 4th best team in the country, you got to get a turnover. You got to get a stop on defense. They were unable to do that.
Yeah, AJ, I remember on those fumbles, the Orange had a multitude of defenders right in the vicinity of the ball, but just couldn't hang on to it. Despite that, it wasn't all doom and gloom for the Orange today. LeQuint Allen topped 100 yards on the ground for the 3rd time this season, had multiple long carries as well. AJ, he was solid on runs up the middle and off the tackles.
Yeah, Liam, LeQuint Allen was SU's only form of offense, really. I think the game plan from here on out has got to be paint the offense around Allen, because when he has the ball, SU looks most dangerous to score. Right now, this Orange team does not have a receiver threat. Allen's the main guy they got to go to.
Yeah, I guess at least he's been stepping up, and he's clearly a player playing with a lot of confidence. Today we saw a lot of explosive runs from the running back and also yards after contact. Really tough to take down on a lot of occasions, and that could be huge for him going forward down the final stretch.
Yeah, Sam, you guys mentioned Allen in the receiving game. Not a ton of greatness from the Orange receiving corps today, but LeQuint Allen did have 3 catches. Are we going to see him as a factor in that game later on? For the Seminoles, Jordan Travis had another great game against Syracuse. The FSU signal caller completed over 60% of his passes for nearly 300 yards and had 2 rushing scores. Sam, Dino Babers had high praise for Travis entering the game, and he was proven right.
Understandably so. Absolutely, Liam. And for me, looking at Jordan Travis play, it's the constant good decision-making that really stands out. He's a veteran at this point, and time again, he makes good decisions with the football. It obviously helps that he's accurate, never goes too risky in the passing game, and the stats tell you just that. Only 1 interception all season long. Very high IQ.
Yeah, what impressed me most with Jordan Travis was his ability to make plays after the pocket broke down. When the pocket broke down, he didn't look nervous. He never threw the ball away. He can either run with it or he can make a great throw and it will be completed by an FSU receiver. It looked very NFL-esque and very Heisman candidate-like.
Well, Jordan Travis was wreaking havoc all game long, but not quite enough to earn Orange Press Pass Player of the Game. That honor goes to this guy, wide receiver Keon Coleman. The Louisiana native tallied a season-high 140 receiving yards, including a 58-yard score. Additionally, Coleman racked up over 100 yards on punt returns, including a 72-yard run at the end of the 3rd quarter. Coleman caused all kinds of problems for the Orange, earning him Orange Press Pass Player of the Game. Time for another break, but when we come back, midterm season is upon us. Sam, AJ, and I head to the classroom after these messages.
Dad, Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Sam Reis, AJ Myers, and Liam Griffin here with you. And guys, you like midterm exams? It's midterm time here at Syracuse University, and can't imagine they're quite popular among you two.
No, absolutely not. Grades, studying, definitely not my cup of tea.
I'm not great at midterms. So.
Well, if you don't like taking midterms, well, do you like grading midterms? Because that's exactly what we're going to do here on Orange Press Pass today. We're 7 weeks into the season. Syracuse football is headed for the bye. What better time to give out some midterm grades, especially since it correlates with midterm season here at SU. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready
Let's
to
do it.
go. Let's do it.
Let's have some fun. Topic number 1 is QB1. Through 7 games, Garrett Schrader has over 1,700 total yards with 14 touchdowns, but 7 turnovers as well. Professor Reis, yes, that's right. I'm giving him the professor title. I want your grade first. What's Schrader getting for his first 7 games?
Well, thank you so much for that title, first and foremost, Liam. Now I feel like I can really give him a grade with authority, and I'm not going to be too harsh on Mr. Schrader. I'll give him a B-. You mentioned the turnovers. That's been an issue for him. You can only put so much blame, however, on the quarterback. Of course, these last couple of weeks, it hasn't been great for him. We heard just recently that he was dealing with some food poisoning, which didn't help his case today. I think it's more of, AJ, the offensive line just not protecting him enough. And what receivers does he have with Gadsden out? That's been a huge issue. At times, the decision-making from Schrader is questionable, I admit that. That's why I put him at a B-. You look at the fumble today. Sometimes he just holds onto the ball too long, doesn't know when to get it out. That's a concern at times, but there's only so much blame you can put on Schrader.
Sam, I'm not going to be an easy grader as you are. I'm going to go C- for Garrett Schrader. Let's go back to that Purdue game. 185 yards through the air, 195 yards on the ground, and 4 touchdowns. Where did that Garrett Schrader go? He has not shown up at all in ACC play. The running ability hasn't been there. The creative plays haven't been there. I know that's not all his fault, but last season when we approached ACC play, it was the injury. He wasn't healthy. Well, I think he's perfectly healthy now. He needs to start performing better. He needs to raise his level a lot more if SU wants any success towards the end of the season.
AJ, it's interesting you mentioned that Purdue game because we're 7 games into the season. Garrett Schrader has only been under center for the entire 60 minutes for that Purdue game. You look at Colgate, Western Michigan, both blowouts. Army, he was taken out for a drive late, and then these past 3 losses have also been non-competitive as well, to the point where Carlos Del Rio Wilson has come in all of them. We haven't seen a full 60 minutes of Schrader a whole lot this season. Whether or not that's better or worse, you be the judge. Next up, the secondary. Syracuse's pass defense had 6 interceptions over the first 4 games, but none since. Plus, AJ, the Orange haven't held a Power 5 opponent under 250 passing yards yet. That can't bode well for your grade.
Absolutely not. I'm going to give him a D. I think this secondary has been atrocious. They haven't played well enough at all. And against teams like Florida State, Clemson, and UNC, they've just given up loads of passing yards. These teams have been able to throw the ball freely through the air, and a lot of the catches are uncontested. I know today there were a few. That one-handed grab was contested, but for the most part, these receivers have all day to get their routes set, get their feet planted, and then run in open grass.
Listen, AJ, I'm more or less on the same page with you. You're definitely a harsh grader. I'll go with a C-. This, you hit the nail on the head, and you see the pass yards allowed here. The secondary just hasn't been able to get it done against the top teams. And the uncontested aspect of those passes, which you hit on, is something I want to highlight because the same issues have been persisting for the Orange in big games like this, where they simply have no answer for the top receivers on the other team, and that gives teams with great quarterbacks like North Carolina, like Florida State, to go at that deep ball. And time again, Liam, Syracuse has just had no answer for that, and that's why I go with a C- for the secondary.
You know, I look at some of the quarterbacks Syracuse has faced this season, Drake May, Jordan Travis, Cade Klubnik. Syracuse struggled against them, but when you go back earlier in the season when you were facing Jack Salopek with Western Michigan and Bryson Daly with Army, not necessarily the same level of success or stratosphere of the quarterbacks. That must have something to do with it. We wrap up our report cards with the head man. To start his 8th season on the Hill, Dino Babers has the Orange sitting at 4-3 going into their bye. But Sam, I can't help but notice a bit of a pattern from last year when you had that 6-0 start, lose 5 straight, and then win your last one. What to do? 4-0 start to this season, 3 straight non-competitive losses. What are you giving Dino?
A D for Dino, Liam, and I can't hold back on this one. You mentioned it, it's his 8th season now at the helm, and actually earlier in the season, after game number 1, I said on this very show that Dino Babers should be on the hot seat a little bit because he's had so much time and hasn't managed to make adjustments. Learning from last season is something you would hope he would do after that great start and then the collapse. But all of a sudden this season, trending a similar way, AJ, where it's a really, really high-flying start, but once the good opponents come around, they can't get it done. And a lot of that preparation against ranked teams and good opponents in the ACC comes down to the coaching. He's been around long enough that you have to at least show steady improvements and make these games competitive.
Yeah, Sam, I don't know if whether it's your students that have not made you happy, but you've turned into quite a harsh grader. Dino's on the hot seat. I'm going to go a little easy here. I'm going to give him a C. And he said this in his postgame, the talent. There is a talent gap. Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, not the same players, not the same level. I think you give him some leeway there, but I do agree, Liam, with what you said earlier. The ACC collapse that happened last year, and now we're seeing it again this year, it can't keep happening. Eventually, he's got to answer the question is, why isn't this team ready for ACC play? When these big teams come up, North Carolina, Clemson, at home, they don't look ready to play. The slow starts, we've emphasized it so much today. Eventually, he's got to answer for these problems, and so far he hasn't.
Yeah, so neither of you are particularly kind to Dino in your grades. We have a D and a C. I'm going to throw in a wild card here. It's pass or fail. Syracuse, 5 games left. You got Virginia Tech, Boston College, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest. This is a simple pass or fail question. Does Dino make it through the season? Yes or no? AJ?
Pass. Oh yeah, he'll be here.
Pass. He makes it through the season.
All right, you heard it here first. Dino Babers will be coaching the Orange in 2024. One final break here on Orange Press Pass. We'll take a glance at what's going on in the college football realm after the break.
Standard precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet breaking, record breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
breathe right into your foot,
your plumber's masseuse,
yes,
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Closing up shop on Orange Press Pass, that's Sam Reis. He's AJ Myers. I'm Liam Griffin, putting together our final thoughts on Syracuse football's ugly 41-3 loss to number 4 Florida State today. And guys, that wasn't the only game that was played in the college football landscape today. Let's take a look at what else is going on in college football. A lot of big games today. You look at Oregon and Washington. That's a potential college football playoff deciding matchup right there. Syracuse's next opponent, Virginia Tech, up by a score on Wake early. Colorado played one of the craziest games you will ever see, blowing a 28-0 lead at home to former SU quarterback Justin Lamson and Stanford. And then Michigan went down 7-0 early, ends up trouncing Indiana 52-7. What stands out to you, Sam?
I'm going to stay in the ACC, actually. That primetime kickoff between Miami and UNC is something I'm keeping an eye on because I'm very high on this North Carolina team with Drake May at the helm. And now I have a lot of question marks about Miami after that debacle last season, AJ, when they didn't kneel it and somehow lost to Georgia Tech. I think the Tar Heels get it done comfortably, but what kind of bounce back could the Hurricanes have?
For me, I'm looking at the Pac-12. It's crazy to think that this conference isn't going to be here next year, but I don't know about you, Sam, but I was sleeping during that Colorado-Stanford game.
I was awake.
I'm sure you were. It looked like a crazy game, and Colorado, obviously, their season's kind of flattened out a little, and then that Washington-Oregon game, what a game that is. As you mentioned, Liam, it could definitely be a playoff matchup. And then when we look at the ACC, Wake Forest and Virginia Tech, two teams SU plays, they're right now in a battle.
Yeah, real quick, that Miami debacle was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen on a football field, and it affected Miami's positioning in the ACC standings. The Hurricanes no longer undefeated, no longer on this graphic. You have Florida State, the first ACC team with 4 wins in conference. Louisville, UNC, Duke right behind them. No Syracuse on here, guys. Besides the Seminoles, which team do you think is the most intimidating?
The most intimidating for me, I would look at what you said, Sam, UNC. Yeah. I think they've been playing their best football. I think they're only starting to play their best football. And for Syracuse, of course, no SU there. And you kind of get dealt with a bad schedule, those 3 ACC games in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. Next most intimidating team is UNC. But what really catches my eye on those standings right now, how about the Cardinals? Louisville, after that massive win last week against Notre Dame, all of a sudden, I think we have to be talking about this team potentially being legit. They should beat Pitt today, and an interesting final stretch, Liam, where they could be competitive and maybe make some noise in this conference.
Yeah, after that win against Notre Dame, the Cardinals vaulting all the way up to number 14. But Syracuse does not see them this season. Who it does see, Virginia Tech, and that is when our next OPP takes place. No game next week, so Orange Press Pass is off, but on technically Friday, October 27th at 12:30 a.m., we'll be recapping that showdown in Lane Stadium. Nighttime game in a very raucous environment, Sam. Enter Sandman will be booming.
It will be. Thursday night under the lights in that environment. It's not a good Virginia Tech team. However, the Syracuse team doesn't have any momentum on its side. This will be a very tricky test. I think the Orange get it done in the end, but watch out. This could be a one-possession game.
Without a doubt, I don't think SU has enough to get it done. As soon as the schedule was released, I looked at that Virginia Tech game away, raucous environment. This is going to be a very, very difficult matchup for SU.
And who can forget that crazy 41-36 final 2 years ago? But we're almost out of time, but real quick, Sam, your final takeaway from tonight's game.
Well, it's nice and simple, and that's despite another blowout this week, we can't be that surprised by this result. And that's because of the trends we have mentioned with this team year in, year out, and from game to game. The weaker opponents at the beginning of the season, Syracuse looks great. Everything's going well in the world. And then the tough ranked opponents come around, and those teams are just simply on another level, and Syracuse never makes the necessary adjustments to get it done.
For me, Sam, my final thought is looking ahead. What is Reis going to do to this team? A lot of guys said this in their post-game press conferences that they're looking forward to having the bye week. They need the bye week. Dino Baber said everyone can finally get healthy. All right, so when you come back, are you going to look like a better team? Because these last 3 games, this team just has not delivered.
5 games after the bye, AJ. A lot to look into once that wraps up. That does it for us here on Orange Press Pass with Sam Reis, AJ Myers, our executive producer Jacob Bernardini, and everyone else behind the scenes. I'm Liam Griffin. Thanks so much for tuning in, and have a good night.